So I feel like I'm drowning, financially drowning.
I am 22 years old and I am in $91,300 worth of debt, and I am filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy today.
Do you know the biggest, worst financial mistake I've ever made? Financing a car.
Every single time you open up social media, you would probably easily be able to find someone sharing their story about their financial journey and the amount of debt they have accumulated. I do think to a degree these can help people navigate their own finances or help them to feel inspired to get on top of their finances as well. But I can't help but think, how do people get themselves in these positions in the first place? And I guess you would never understand unless you're in that position. But personally, hearing some of these stories makes me feel so anxious. Just before we start, I want to preface by saying I'm not a financial advisor. This is not advice in any way, shape or form. And this is just my opinion. Today we are covering some of those videos. Let's get right into it.
Do you know the biggest, worst financial mistake I've ever made? Financing a car. Why didn't I listen to my dad when I sold my first car that he kindly bought for me and put that money down on a deposit on a finance car? He literally said, you're more or less stuck now, unless you want to pay like a balloon payment at the end, which is like $7,000. Why did I do it? Because the irony is, that particular car got written off. Then, silly me, got this huge insurance payout and put that money down on an even more expensive car. But only me can pay their monthly payments back on my salary. I don't have a salary right now because I'm on maternity leave, which means a huge chunk of money of my maternity pay is going on a car that just sits and runs me to and from Morrison's or to my mum and dad's. And it's not even a brand new car, it's a 2018 plate, but it's costing me an absolute fortune. And I'm just so pissed off with myself. Here I am, literally, I emailed them on Monday to see if they could get me a cheaper car. Because as I've gotten older, I've realised that actually, who cares if you haven't got a flash car? I'm 23 years old, I don't need a flash car. The worst part is I literally look back and the insurance payout that I got could have been like a 5% house deposit. But here we are renting. Honestly, I wish that my dad could control my bank account. It actually makes me feel sick. I could be in such a different position right now. Thank God I paid extra for gap insurance, because it literally paid off my finance for the car that got written off, and then I just got the remaining lump sum back. And I still look at it now and I'm like, why did I use that money to get another car on finance, an expensive car on finance? I literally could have put money down on a house on a 5% deposit. Don't get me wrong, it's not a massive deposit, but it's still a deposit. Now I literally spunked it up the wall.
So the reality I personally don't understand is, if you can't afford it, don't put yourself in that position. I know for myself, I put out a loan on a car, but it was within my means and I knew it was achievable. And from the start, my goal was to pay it off as soon as I could, because I hate paying interest. It's so annoying. It's just like wasted money, it feels. And I paid it off a lot quicker than what the loan was expected to be lasting for. And that was great. And now I own the car outright and I don't have any loans. So when I hear stories like this, put themselves in so much debt for something that depreciates as soon as you drive it. Cars are literally money pits. That's how I see it. You have to service and maintain the car every year. You have to pay registration every year. You pay for fuel and you pay to have your car on the road. And it's not cheap. I just think cars are such a waste of money. Personally, if I can't afford the car and I'm trying to find a car that's within my means that I can comfortably still live my life and not feel like I'm car poor because I have this huge loan for a car. And the thing that I hear so often is people say, oh, I tried to trade it in and it wasn't worth anywhere near what my loan is, so they're at a loss. That would piss me off so much. And you know what? I'm thankful I've heard stories of this, because it has deterred me from getting into even more debt for a car loan. It just seems like such a hassle. Drop a comment below. Have you been in a similar position with car loans? Because from a lot of stories I hear, most of the time it is a car loan, and 70% of the time as well, they say they regret purchasing. Welcome to Diary of Jen. If you are already part of the fam, thank you so much for being here. And if you haven't subscribed, we'd love you to be part of the fam. Our next goal is 500 subs. We are so close. And I love watching our community grow. It's so exciting.
So I feel like I'm drowning. Financially drowning. So back in April, I had a baby. And I decided to take 9 weeks off. Now, I have had 4 children now working at the same company, so I kind of knew how things went. I took 9 weeks thinking that my insurance was going to pay 8 weeks. But because they run it under short-term disability, you have to be off the week, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's why I took 9. Anyway, long story short, they only paid me for 6. And when they do pay you, it's like a max of $250 a week. So when you go and you have to pay back your insurance on a bi-weekly basis and the taxes that come out of there, you're getting basically $200. So I was not paid very much. The last 3 weeks that I was off, I was paid nothing. Everything that I had saved from my taxes, gone. I spent all of it, everything. That also meant that I was like I'm a month behind on my car payment. I have a few credit card bills that I was paying the bare minimum and I got behind on those. And so now everybody and their brother is calling me and wants their money and wants their money and wants their money and wants their money and late fees and this and that. And it just adds up. It's a spiraling ball, right? So here I was making progress, and now I'm retracted in progress. And then just the other day, my TV broke, and now I need to buy a whole nother TV. And so there's that. And now there's school supplies and the fairs coming up that I take my kids to every year. And I'm paying extra money because I want to send my middle daughter to Washington, D.C. this next spring. So it's financially drained. I don't know how any of you get ahead. I don't know how any of you have a savings. I don't know how any of you get ahead in life at all financially.
So here's the thing. I personally don't want children in this current economy because how are you affording them? Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm the only one who resonates with this. And I mean, the stats show apparently in Australia, the rate of people having children is on a decline. And can you blame us? No. You know why? Because things are expensive. Children are expensive. And personally, if I'm not in a financial position to have a child, I'm not having a child.
Researchers say not only the cost of living, but the cost of housing and the cost of childcare are the big barriers at the moment. A new Melbourne University survey finds Australians aged 18 to 44 are preferring small families or going without children at all. A lot are embracing a one and done mentality. In 2001, the survey found the number of couples with children was 52.4%. That's now fallen to 48.4%. And 14% of women and 15% of men are reporting they don't want children, double the rate from 20 years ago. Australia's birth rate is at 1.5, and this always rises up in politics, this issue. Peter Costello famously said, one for mum, one for dad, and one for the country. And the current Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, at the election said universal childcare would be his enduring political legacy. So we'll see if the government acts on that further here.
Why would I do that to myself, to the kids? It's not fair. I couldn't imagine having 4 children in this economy right now unless I was well off and comfortably. There's a difference between someone who is well off, but if you're not in a financial position to have children, I just personally wouldn't do it. I wouldn't put myself in that position, and it's stressful. You obviously want the best for your children, right? So her saying, I want to send my child to study or Washington, I think it was, I get it. You want the best for your child. I'm not against that. But the thing that gets me is this economy is insane. It's so expensive to do lots of things. And especially wanting to take the kids to the fair, expensive for 4 children and yourself. And I think in America, which I believe this is where that lady's from, it's a bit different around pregnancy and things like that. I think in America they have to pay after they have children. Is that right? Because in Australia, you don't pay anything after you birth a child. Unless you go to private hospital, it's a bit different. And that's the thing. As a parent, you take sick leave or personal leave because your kids are unwell and you need to be home to look after them. Or you're trying to put a roof over your head and your kids, it costs so much money for rent, just housing in general. It's insane. And then to have your TV break. Annoying. I get it. It's shit to be in a financial position where you feel stuck. And I think that if we can educate ourselves and make better decisions financially, we can really put ourselves ahead, which is really the main goal. I know for myself anyway, that is. Obviously, she's just trying to do the best that she can, but I just think having children in this economy is something else.
I am 22 years old and I am in $91,300 worth of debt, and I am filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy today. I've had such a bad financial burden the last couple years, so after meeting with an attorney and doing lots of research, I realized that filing bankruptcy really isn't as bad as it's made out to be, and it was truly going to be my best bet. I decided to file Chapter 7, and truthfully, my consumer debt really is not that bad. A lot of people have it a lot worse financially, but for me, $91,000 was just too much. It was uncomfortable and I just wanted to get a fresh start. I moved to Texas directly after high school and I made a lot of very irresponsible decisions financially and really dug myself into a big hole of debt. I decided, let's go ahead and file bankruptcy. Let's give myself a clean slate. That way I can stop stressing and I can actually do better. Okay, just to give you a little breakdown of the debt that I do have that totals up to the $91,300. I owe about $51,000 on the vehicle that I have. We did try selling that, trading it in, all that good stuff, but I have way too much negative equity to come out on top. I bought a motorcycle back in 2022. Thought that was a great idea. I owe $5,000 still on that. Same thing. Tried selling it, not able to get what we owe out of it. I do own a camper and I owe about $13,400 on that. However, I live out of that camper because I can't afford a house. So I am keeping that since I do live in it. I have $2,200 worth of medical bills that I had no idea were in collections. And then I have $12,000 worth of student loans. However, those do not get forgiven with bankruptcy, so I will still continue that payment. And then I have about $7,700 worth of credit card debt, all coming into a grand total of $91,300. So after meeting with an attorney, she decided filing Chapter 7 is going to be my best bet. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. Since I was referred to her from somebody that is currently filing bankruptcy with her, she did cut me a discount. So my bankruptcy is only going to cost me about $1,100. So I've already paid all of those fees to her to do a free consultation with her. And then after I decided to go ahead and file, I paid a deposit and I received a workbook. I went ahead and filled that workbook out and everything. And it just pretty much, it needed all my information, my income, all my belongings and stuff like that I have. And then I listed all of my creditors as well. So thankfully you are able to actually pick and choose what you do file on whenever it comes to bankruptcy. So I did decide to surrender the truck and then I am surrendering the motorcycle as well. I am keeping my camper and I will have to keep my student loans, but otherwise everything's gonna be wiped clean. So we're gonna go ahead and go in, we're gonna sign a little bit of paperwork, get everything finalized so she can actually file. Okay, we just signed paperwork and everything. Everything is pretty much finalized now. Did all the hard stuff. So she said I'll get a letter in the mail scheduling my 314 meeting, which will happen in the middle of December, and that's pretty much just a meeting with all my creditors, and it's just a Zoom call, and she said 99% of the time none of them show up, which then means that everything goes out the window. So fingers crossed none of them show up whenever we have that meeting in the middle of December, and then after that everything will be finalized and I will be so much closer to being debt free, and finally will have a weight lifted off my shoulders because I am tired of carrying this financial burden. Obviously it sucks that I'm doing this at 22 years old, but I think that this has been such a learning curve for me and I will never put myself in this position again. And honestly, it's been just such a good life lesson. So let this be your sign. If you are really struggling financially, you have a lot of debt that you just honestly cannot get taken care of, go meet with an attorney. Discuss bankruptcy. It is truly not as bad as it is made out to be.
$91,000 of debt at 22 years old.
Wait a minute.
The thought of even myself being in that amount of debt is crippling. Just when I owe any amount of money, it's shit. It's not fun. Filing for bankruptcy, I've heard a lot of things about that, and I wouldn't do it personally. It is crazy that people are giving financial advice to others online.
That's true.
I personally wouldn't take advice from someone who I wouldn't trade lives with. Because I know people make mistakes, you know, we all do things, we're young, we're silly, I get it. But, you know, I think you do really need to be aware that you did put yourself in that position, and $91,000? That's so much money. Like, so much. I will say, good on her for getting on top of it. Some people try and avoid it and bury their head in the sand. So the fact she's trying to get on top of it is great, but it's also insane to me how you can even get yourself into that much debt. And I don't know why at 91,000 she decided actually that's too much. Any amount of debt sucks. Again, cars. They're so bad. I personally think they're the worst, if not one of the worst, financial decisions you can make. For me, I would much rather pay most of the car off or get a loan that I can very much so afford comfortably and pay off ASAP, or I just won't get it because it's just not worth it. Honestly, you just need something that gets you from A to B. Okay, something that's reliable, something that's good for fuel. You know, parts aren't insane if anything needs to be fixed. Like I said, it's a different story if you're well off and you can afford these fancy cars and blah, 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 blah. That is everything I had today. So thank you so much for being here and watching. I appreciate having your support. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Comment below what you'd like to see next. And if you haven't already joined the fam, we'd love to have you here. Don't forget to subscribe. I will see you next time. Have an amazing rest of your day. Bye.